Good morning and welcome to today's edition of Rapid TV's continuously evolving social, political, and general interest show we call Korero. Of course, I'm your regular host, Nkamian John the Beloved, also known as the Controversial. The Nigerian Senate, once seen as the stronghold of democracy and a symbol of legislative integrity, devolved into a theater of absurdity, especially after the recent suspension of Senator Natasha Uduaghan. Now, her suspension by the Senate has seen as not just an attack on her as an individual, but a resounding declaration that the system seems to be rigged against women who dare to challenge the status quo. A chilling reminder that in a country where justice is often manipulated, the girl child and every aspiring female leader walk a tightrope in a political landscape designed to keep them silent and subservient. Akpoti, a fearless advocate for good governance, seems to be a target for those who fear accountability. Her suspension reeks of orchestrated political suppression, a blatant abuse of legislative power wielded against a woman who refuses to be cowed. But what is more appalling is the manner in which due process has been thrown to the wind. The suspension of Natasha Akpoti is not just about her as a person, it is about the message being sent to every woman in Nigeria who dreams of leadership. And I must emphasize, I am the father of a fantastically intelligent young 10-year-old, soon to be 11. So I wonder, with all of this happening, when she looks back in history and wants to take her position as a public servant and as a leader, what message would she decode from all that is happening at this time in history? It is about the dangerous precedent that allows political witch hunting to masquerade as legislative discipline. And most importantly, it's about a nation that continues to fail its people by allowing impunity to reign unchecked. In any functioning democracy, fairness and transparency are non-negotiable. Yet, Nigeria's Senate seems to operate on a different script, one where power is used as a weapon against those who challenge the system. There was a time when the Senate, despite its imperfections, carried an air of credibility under the then leadership of Senator Bukola Saraki. It still retained a semblance of dignity, a commitment, however flawed, to legislative responsibility. Of course, it is important to have this conversation because we are in the month that celebrates women, and just a few days ago, it was World International Women's Day. So it is important that we look at all sides as it relates to the Akpabio-Natasha drama, as it were, particularly as it involves a woman. Today, the story is different with regards to the sense of responsibility and the semblance of dignity with regards to the hollow chambers of the National Assembly. On this edition of Rapid TV's continuously evolving social, political, and general interest show, Korero, we will be looking at a tale of two sexual harassment cases as evidence of unequal treatment before the law. One, Oluremi Tinubu, First Lady of the Federation, against Senator Natasha Uduaghan. The show is live and interactive on all our social media platforms, and as always, I advocate that you become part of our growing online community simply by following and liking Rapid TV on Facebook, Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, also known as IG. We are also on LinkedIn and on TikTok. Don't forget, our official handle is @OfficialRapidTV. And of course, you can take advantage of our WhatsApp portal, 0916-771-6035, to also be part of the conversation this morning on the show. Now, one of the principles of the rule of law is that everyone should receive equal treatment before the law. In other words, Regardless of the person's economic or social status, the law should provide equal protection for those that seek refuge before the law enforcement agencies and other institutions of government. Now, in terms of upholding the rule of law in Nigeria, let the statistics speak as follows. 1. Nigeria ranks 120th out of 140 countries in the 2024 World Human Rights and Rule of Law Index, scoring below average and falling behind military-ruled Niger, gang-plagued El Salvador, and war-torn Ukraine. Now you can compare those countries I just mentioned. Well, the index compiled by the World Justice Project assesses how nations uphold human rights and maintain the rule of law. It evaluates government constraints, corruption levels, openness, human rights protections, public order, regulatory enforcement, and the effectiveness of civil justice system. Of course, the word civil justice system brings to mind the Farutimi saga with regards to our justice system. Anyway, Nigeria's ranking has fluctuated over recent years. It plunged from 106th in 2020 to 121st in 2021 and climbed slightly to 118th in 2022 before falling back to 120th both in 2023 and 2024. Now, in terms of scores, 2024 marks Nigeria's lowest performance since 2015. The country scored 0.44 on a scale ranging from 0 to 1, with 1 representing the highest level of adherence to human rights and the rule of law. Now, this is a decline from 0.41, a score Nigeria maintained from 2021 to 2023 after dropping 0.1 in 2021. The foregoing statistics is evidence that Nigeria's adherence to the rule of law is on a steady decline. The recent treatment of suspension meted out to Senator Natasha is an example that there is an unequal application of the rule of law in Nigeria by institutions of government that were established to administer the rule of law. It is important to provide a brief background to the principle of the rule of law. The late Oxford University scholar A.V. Dicey is credited as the proponent of the rule of law. It was propounded as an antidote to prevent anarchy and autocracy and the state of nature wherein might was right, as stated by Thomas Hobbes. However, it appears that in Nigeria, we are gradually abandoning the 100% application of the rule of law in its steady. Instead, we are opting for the state of nature where might is right. Yes, this is best illustrated by how the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has handled the sexual harassment case of 2 women, namely Her Excellency Oluremi Tinubu, a former senator and current First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on one hand, and the handling of the sexual harassment episode involving Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Both female senators have received unequal treatment by the Senate President and entire institution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the case of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, she explored and exhausted all amiable, informal options to resolve the said issue, including reporting to her husband, who admitted that he spoke to the Senate President to ease and desist from sexual harassment of his wife. Note, nothing happened, but by way of official recognition of her complaints, out of the frustration, she put a show on the floor of the chambers of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the 20th of February 2025 as a means to call attention to her plight, and subsequently she submitted a formal petition against her continued sexual harassment, which instead of earning her a referral to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, earned her a 6-month suspension from the Senate on the 6th of March 2025. Now, instead of an official investigation of her complaints, Senator Natasha became the subject of all manners of attacks by both her colleague senators and both serving and past, including one former senator, a lady that alleged that sexual harassment is not something that happens within the four walls of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In complete 100% contrast to the treatment meted out to Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Her Excellency Oluremi Tinubu also made a complaint of sexual, or more appropriately gender-biased or based harassment against His Excellency Malam El-Rufai, immediate past governor of Kaduna State. And her allegations were treated with utmost dispatch. In August 2023, or thereabout, Her Excellency Oluremi Tinubu's complaints resulted in the refusal of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to confirm Malam Nasser El-Rufai as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Joining me this morning to carefully but critically examine a tale of two sexual harassment cases as evidence of unequal treatment before the law in the case of Oluremi Tinubu versus Senator Natasha is my friend, brother, a legal practitioner of repute, and the part I like so much, an author. I'm waiting for his second book, Osigwe Ahmed Momo. Ahmed, it's great, as always, to have conversations. I always like to say I'm a student of the law.
Yes, you
so
are.
anything that pertains to the law tickles my fancy.
Yeah.
So it's great that you could make out time to be with us on this edition of the show.
Thank you so much, John, for having me here.
Right. Now, let's get down to the matter. How can an institution that claims to uphold justice allow individuals accused of wrongdoing to preside over their own judgment, as we have seen in the case between the president of the Senate. I must admit, he's my big brother, former governor, Godswill Akpabio. That phrase, the uncommon transformer. Though we haven't seen him do much of transformation of late. But how is it that an institution like the Senate would allow that to pass?
Well, I think, you can hardly excuse them because, first of all, most of them are very fine lawyers in their own right.
Exactly.
And those that are not have at least one legislative aid paid for by your tax, my tax, the good people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and resources. So they cannot necessarily say, hey, I don't know, I'm not supposed to know about this, I don't have an idea about this. You see, the principle of natural justice is embedded in our Constitution. And that principle sits on two legs.
Wow.
Yes. To the right, we have something we will call Nemos Judex in Casuasua.
It's Latin.
Yes.
It's Latin.
I'll say it in Pidgin, but let me start in Latin first. To the right, to the left, it will be all the autorem pater. Now, let's start with the left. Basically, you must hear from the other ear, the other side. You must, a famous judge said, God gave us 2 years for a reason. If you hear from the left, you hear from the right. So you have to hear from both parties. It's very important. The denial of fair hearing or hearing from both parties is very integral to natural justice. The other side, perhaps the side that is of extreme importance for us this morning, is audio autorem pater. Meaning, nemo judex in casuasua, meaning you can't be a judge in your own case. You can preside over your own matter. Now, the very fact that this position is not just meant for our judiciary, it's meant for any quasi-judicial sitting. So whether or not it is in the court or in any place where there's going to be a quasi, and how you pronounce it, judicial sitting, you must allow the principle of natural justice to particularly play. You can't sit over a matter that you have interest in. Now, Senator Natasha has clearly mentioned the Senate president in the saga. While the ethics, he's not a member of the ethics committee, but being in the general plenary, you sitting there, Mr. Senate President, with all due respect, passing that law is an affront to the constitution and the norm, the Nigerian legal norm. Therefore, any decision made where you are the judge in your own matter is for that reason void ab initio. It's void. You cannot be the judge in your matter. It is as clear as it is. So you sat down there to say, you are the one deciding. You're the one. We can't trust anything, no matter how free, no matter how fair, no matter how similar. Because your president there, first of all, can even intimidate people.
Even if the allegation is false.
Even if it is false. And let me start by saying that in my mind now, the Senate president is innocent, so that you won't say I'm biased. Because the presumption of innocence is something that follows the good, the bad, and every other person. The politicians deserve it. The terrorists deserve it. Everybody deserves to be deemed innocent. We have come to that light. So, of course, in our mind, the Senate president is innocent until and unless he has been proven guilty or there's been credible fact that, yes, this is something you did, and, you know, a panel or the courts or whatever it is, a judicial, quasi-judicial body sits on it and say, no, you definitely had infractions. So now I'm saying, even if you are innocent, you still cannot be the judge in your own cause. And being a judge in your cause makes whatever you pass null and void. That's the first aspect. It's not binding, it's null, it's void, and of no effect whatsoever. Because you can't definitely say, I'm the one that decided, or I just, I got the report and I decided to put it in the open. You can't. You are involved in it one way or another. And you have a deputy. Yeah.
So how does a body tasked with making laws become an instrument of lawlessness? Because that's the part I'm trying to understand. You when you started this conversation, you pointed out the fact that the Senate president is known fact, he's a lawyer.
Yes.
Even senators who are not lawyers or have little knowledge of the law have legal aid paid for by taxpayers' money. So ignorance is not an excuse.
Absolutely not.
So how is it that the Senate, a body that is supposedly a lawmaking body, become an instrument of lawlessness?
Yeah, so we cannot say they were ill-advised. We therefore say it was designed. There are sometimes you say, this was ill-advised.
So it's premeditated.
I want to believe now strongly that they have seen it, they knew what they ought to have done, and they rejected and refused because they say, quote unquote, nothing they happened. So it makes me feel like it's by design. The Senate president being the one to preside over that suspension, where it was an active part of the investigation. Whether or not Senator Natasha, slept on her rights, because the other side is you must be giving the other ears. But if I give you a right to defend yourself and you decide not to defend yourself, you have slept on your right. So I can go ahead and say, well, you were not here, so I couldn't look at it. Or in the case, the petition didn't follow the normal norms, so I didn't look at it. It doesn't matter. Even if you said the petition needed to be signed by somebody else, it wasn't signed by somebody else, therefore we couldn't look at the allegation. That's technicalities. Regardless of that technicality, the person that the petition was against cannot be the one to preside over that. It's such a basic element. It just is I want to say 100 level law, but I'll take it, maybe it's prelim or diploma level law. Do you understand? It's something so basic. It's civic education, for crying out loud. You should learn this in government, not in university. So every Nigerian ought to know that a judge can sit and preside over a matter that concerns him. This particular matter concerns you, sir. Do the needful. Let's have a, just optics. I'm not saying resign. I'm not one of those people saying,
step aside.
No, what are you resigning for? Saying you should resign seems to be like a design. Somebody's trying to indirectly kick you out. We're not being political.
It's not political.
No, not at all.
But the Senate decided to play the political card because if I might borrow your word, they are not ill-advised,
yes,
but they operated based on design.
Absolutely.
Is that design more hinged on politics, or is there some other mechanism at play?
Let's just assume, worst case scenario, that they have seen the case of Senator Natasha, and they have seen that it is so watery, so baseless, so offensive, so infuriating, and they decided to say, we don't care. I'm saying that even if that is the worst case scenario, even though there is absolutely nothing in it, so long there is a petition against you, sir, you must recuse yourself from that sitting. It's not so much to ask. You have a deputy. You can actually, the Senate, if it's evident, you can find, probably elect another person for that, but it's a deputy. Why are we even going there? You cannot be the one to decide that particular motion. It's offensive. It's not right. It's a bad precedent that people will look at tomorrow. It can be borrowed in other areas, not just, in the legislature. It can be borrowed in the private sector. All over the country, people can start borrowing this habit. After all, the Senate president was the one to look at this, because there was a committee, it came to you and you sat over it. That sitting over it at that moment made whatever pronouncement you made null and void and of no effect whatsoever. So the suspension, in my opinion, that of course the matter is in court, and I do not know this is one of the issues raised, but I'm sure Senator Natasha is a very fine lawyer, Numa SAN. So I'm sure this is something that they will look into. But as it is now, being that you were the judge over that matter, that's just one ground. There are many other grounds. That's just one ground. Another interesting ground is, as at the time that the supposed suspension was made by the House, there was a subsisting judgment.
Yeah, exactly.
At the Federal High Court. Justice Ekwatu had already given you just 72 hours, not so much.
But could they claim not to be aware of the court orders, court judgments?
They were served. They were served. You can hide from it. You can refrain from this. You can't just bury your head on it. The disrespect to the judiciary, it's offensive. And I'm even offended when I see lawyers trying to defend it. What are we turning into? If we can't respect the judiciary, and you know what is painful for me? It's not an interlocutory, it's interim. It's just 72 hours. Come and show cause. You mean the Senate cannot respect the courts?
Some school of thoughts have suggested that there has been this tussle when it comes to respecting the rule of law, that the Senate seems to see itself either equal or above the judiciary. Is that in a democracy? We're seeing something similar happen in the United States, where you have a president who is more or less avoiding every opportunity to engage the Congress, and is issuing executive order. And what Americans seem to be relying on is the judiciary. We've seen the judiciary upturn one or two executive orders. In Nigeria, we are seeing this tussle of power, especially when it comes to the rule of law, between the Senate particularly, or the National Assembly, with flagrant disrespect for court judgments and court orders. Where do we draw the line?
I think it's corruption. By corruption, I'm not talking of bribery and corruption. I think there's decay, so to speak, in our culture, where the judgment of the court really doesn't have any effect.
Why?
Government have played a large part of it. People are saying, people hardly do what you tell them to do. They tend to do what,
they want to do.
They see what you do. People, is what, monkey see, monkey do. The culture is not what you say, it's not what you say, it's what you do. So people are observant. People are seeing that even the presidency don't respect order. People go to court in Nigeria, the palace go to court. If you ask anybody what it means, it basically means forget about it, because if you go to court, you won't get justice. So and it's sad, because the judiciary is truly the last hope. And to be honest, a majority of Nigerians get judgment from the court. But when it comes to political matters, high-profile cases, they tend to give a sour taste. And people don't tend to understand that there are magistrates out there working hard, doing justice every day. There are high court judge out there working out, doing justice every day, writing long judgments with pen throughout hours. Sometimes you be in the court, you be like, these guys are working hard. Let's be honest, how much are they being paid? That is definitely no money. For many of them, it's a calling to be a judge. It's almost like a priest. You're called to these things.
It's a vocation.
You just have to put yourself into it. So the majority, mind you, of our judiciary is intact. However, there are cases whereby they need to start protecting themselves, divorce themselves from the public space, divorce themselves from every element of corruption or politicking and all that. Just focus on your focus. Be independent. They need to give themselves the credibility. It has to happen. It's not going to come from outside. That way, when you get an order, people say, oh, it becomes a big deal. The court itself will need to protect his order. By all means necessary. The very moment I gave an interim order and you come here, you are speaking English, like what happened yesterday in the federal court. The moment, was there an order and was there suspension? Therefore, contempt proceedings instantly. Declare whatever has been done, null and void instantly. Just out there, just make it pronounced. The court must defend itself. I'm not trying to tell the judge what to do, but in my opinion, the very moment parties were back in the court yesterday and somebody is asking a question or another, the judge will simply say, I gave an order. The parties ought to maintain status quo for 72 hours and come and tell me why should they make this interlocutory. And the very moment you didn't do that, instantly, the court must protect itself. Make your orders clear. That is null and void because there was a substituting order. Now you be the one to go and, vacate it. But, the culture we now live in is just a matter of, laissez-faire, like, and we can do what we want to do. There's some level of freedom and all that. And I feel particularly bad because if the judiciary is corrupted, if the judiciary is disrespected, and by corrupt, I'm not talking of Naira and Kobo again. I mean, if it's disrespected, if the image is dented, then we can't really have a country. Because when the executive and the legislative add loggerheads, or even are in tandem against the will of the people, we need to run to the judiciary.
Exactly.
That has to be the door. That's the only corridor. Because there are laws on books. There are laws on paper. But the law is what the court finally says it is. So truly, if you look at it from that aspect, you will realize the judiciary is perhaps the most important. You can make the law, but I will tell you what you made. You can't make it, and no. It is left for us to not tell you, we will interpret what you made. You don't have the power to make it and interpret it. Same, that power goes to the judiciary. So the very mere fact that this is the body, vested with the constitutional duty to interpret the laws makes them a very sacred and solemn, aspect of our government, and we must protect it as Nigerians also. Lawyers have a duty on both sides. It is time lawyers start telling their client, I can't disrespect the court. I can't. Thank you, sir, for so money you're paying, but I can't do this. It's an affront to the court. There's an order. We must respect it. Lawyers must sit up and be responsible for crying out loud. We're not merchants.
Let me digress a bit. Are we toying with the mindset that justice is just an imagination of man? That justice really doesn't exist?
Well, it's becoming like that. If you ask a lot of people if Nigeria is a just country, I don't know. I would like to see a pull on that. If you believe that you get justice in the court, I want to believe we'll rank very low, and all that. And I think Nigerians are fair people. I think Nigerians are fair. It's very easy to please Nigerians. They say, that's just a little, we begin. So I don't think that justice is really a mirage in that sense. I think a majority of the cases are not political. They are day-to-day issues that many Nigerians have. Many Nigerians go to the courtroom and many Nigerians get justice from the courtroom. That's the truth. So let's try as much as possible not to allow these sensational matters, these sometimes inexplicable judgments, blind and color our minds from the reality. There's justice in our system, truly speaking, in the judiciary. However, the angle, the popular matters, some of these, bad eggs that seem to be more popular and they just,
loud.
And sometimes people also don't really read the judgment.
That's another
thing. So you just assume, because Nigerians are very sensational and it's easy to be sensationalized with the press. I want you just assume, this person is right, this person is wrong. Each people just form their opinion already. You can't really say. Like I said, the Senate president is still innocent, very much innocent. I'm fighting at the principle with which he will sit down to be a judge in his own court. But I'm not saying he is guilty. Yes, he can't be a judge in his court.
We must know where to draw that
line.
Where to draw that line.
Yes. The presumption of innocence is some pill that every Nigerian needs to swallow and digest. Because I don't think we've really, really understood that everybody is innocent, and no matter the allegation, thrown against them, no matter how weighty it is. We must see you as innocent, because it could be something else. You know, you can actually be seen holding this. A classical example. A few weeks ago, this is very interesting. I landed in Lagos. You know, that was Valentine's night. I remember landing in Lagos with my luggage.
Yeah.
I was going with my luggage. I was very sure I was with my luggage. And I got to the place, the way I passed the people who want to collect the luggage check, yeah, the tags, yeah. I passed them with I did not even, because it was late and, you know, they delayed us and all that, crying out loud. And just as I was going, they asked, where's your tag? And I showed them, said, no, this is not this airline. I think I came with United and I was holding Aero. I'm like, no, this is my bag now. I looked at it, I was like, oh, maybe it was the previous flight I used. I was thinking that there is no way this is not my
bag,
because I didn't check it. No, it was at the check-in. I just took it and left, sorry. So I was like, what happened? I was trying to crack my brain. And just behind me, there was a lady who came with my own bag and had a lot of things.
Identical bags.
It was the same thing. And the way I walked past, right, those people, like, I'm in a hurry, blah, blah, blah. I need to run to see my beautiful wife, my lovely children. I'm missing you all. I was really running, you know, so I wasn't looking. But if somebody had apprehended me at that time, I'd gone with somebody's bag. What have you done? You have, you know, transportation, you're tracking. But I didn't know. I didn't intend to steal. You get what I mean? So you must hear the other side. You must put everything thoroughly. Of course, finally, we just a little like, thank God, you know, exchange our bags. And she was like, I was saying that my bag was lighter. She didn't know. She herself didn't know that it wasn't her own bag, right? So she was like, I was saying that my own was lighter. This one looks very heavy. And I had a lot of stuff in my bag. That's the kind of thing why we say presumption of innocence is very easy. If it was a jungle justice, oh, did you carry the bag? Yes. Was it your own? No. Therefore, judgment is passed. It's passed. You can't hear the other side. You don't look at it from the angle. And that's exactly what happened most times. We must allow the process go by. And you must look at the intricacies. You will just look at the outside and just judge. And a lot of times, we're too hasty. Most times, the judgment may find one reason. Sometimes technicalities. I'm not really a fan of technicalities. I like matters to be dealt with substantially.
And that's coming from a lawyer, because these days, lawyers seem to be treading the line of technicalities.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair sometimes, to be honest, because I mean, I had a case yesterday. We looked at our case was just so interesting. You know, we looked at everything in the office. They were like, please, let's allow this, but let's allow it fly. Do you get? We can raise an objection. Let's allow it fly. Let's go for the merits of this matter. You know, because of course we feel it will even solve the problem. Both parties will feel like justice was done. Everybody realized that this is it. And of course, our case was so strong, and we know that our chances are so. There's no need to delve on that technicalities. At best, the person will start filing again, dragging the matter. What do we gain? Do you get? Because they were just going to strike out that case, which you can ultimately bring back. You know. So, but sometimes the notion of technicalities is something that tend to ties us as lawyers. It's sports. But yeah, we need to look at the merits of most matters. And I think if most matters are dealt with meritoriously, the substance of it, then, we're growing. The judiciary is still growing, right? And things should get better. Sometimes people are like, are we reversing? I mean, I would say that culture is cultivated, right? And it's very important to know that we can intentionally cultivate the judicial culture we want to see. We can be intentional about it, not half-assed. We can intentionally plant the fruits that we want to see 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, and we will see it. But there must be intentionality. Cultivating is intentional. You are not going to half-assedly just expect that the judiciary will become,
what you want it to be.
Yes, they have to be intentional. And I really beg politicians to please. Many of you are not that young. For the sake of your unborn great-grandchildren, we need to do it right. Because you will leave. Nobody's going to live here for 150 years. I dare it. Nobody alive today will be 150 years old again. Chances are it won't happen. Therefore, let's just know that no matter how long time you have this transient, let's build this country for ourselves, for our great-grandchildren, and let's make an Africa that the world will be proud of.
Well, we'll quickly take a breather, just to take a walk down the corridors of history. As far as the hallowed chambers of the upper legislative chamber is concerned. Don't forget, we're looking at the tale of two harassment issues. The First Lady, while she was in the Senate, some school of thought are even suggesting that being the First Lady was just a good enough excuse for her not to return to the Harlow chambers. But let's relive one of those high tension moments when the First Lady was senator in the Red Chambers. Of course, like I said, one of those high tension moments in the history of the Red Chambers. And of course, at that time, the First Lady, distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu, was one of several females in the Red Chambers at the time. Anyway, if you just tuned in, this is Rapid TV's continuously evolving social, political, and general interest show we call Korero. On today's edition of the show, we are taking our time to look at a tale of two sexual harassment cases as evidence of unequal treatment before the law. Oluremi Tinubu versus Senator Natasha. Of course, the show is live and interactive on all our social media platforms. We are streaming live on our website, www.rbnradiotv.com, and you can engage us on all our social media handles. Don't forget, we are at Official Rapid TV. That's our official handle, and you can take advantage of our WhatsApp portal, 0916 771 6035. 916 771 6035. I can't wait to see the sackload of reactions. This has been a conversation that has been on the table for over 2 weeks now. Every dining table, some have even said it has become a beer parlor conversation. But it is important that we look at all the issues from all angles, right? So it now appears that the wages that come from speaking the truth, so to say, to power or any form of truth, as the case may be, on the floor of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is automatic suspension. So let me give you, beyond being a student of the law, I'm also a student of history. So let me give you a bit of historical background. In the year 2018, Senator Shehu Sani, a former lawmaker who represented Kaduna Central in the Nigerian Senate, Shehu Sani, warned that whistleblowing in the Red Chamber is usually not tolerated by the leadership or the lawmakers, citing the challenges he faced during his time as a lawmaker. Now, Shehu Sani suggested that there is an unwritten law in the Senate that prevents members from engaging in any form of whistleblowing. Now, I'm still going to ask my guest if the Senate naturally should have an unwritten law different from the laws that govern our entity called Nigeria, which is the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution as amended, as the ultimate, let me borrow the legal jargon, the grannum, by which every operating facet of the federal structure should work. Now, according to Premium Times newspaper in the year 2014, which carried out a forensic investigative journalistic report, the allegation of Senator Abdul Nengi were the truth and accurate. However, for speaking this truth, he was suspended by the Senate for a period of 90 days, which was later commuted to 75 days. Yes, 75 days. Now, the Senate suspended Senator Adonengi on March 12, 2024, for 3 months after he alleged that the 2024 budget was padded by 3 trillion naira. His claims made in an interview with the BBC Hausa service suggested that Nigeria was operating 2 different budgets, one approved by the National Assembly and the other being implemented by the presidency. Now, Nengi's allegations led to intense debates in the Senate, prompting a motion by Senator Solomon Adeola, which resulted in his suspension. Following this suspension, Nengi resigned as chairman of the Northern Senators Forum. In the year 2018, Senator Omo Agege was suspended for speaking the truth that some senators were deliberately delaying and attempting to frustrate the amendment of the Electoral Act 2010 for their selfish aims of winning the forthcoming 2019 elections. By virtue of certain international treaties to which Nigeria is signatory to, electoral laws are supposed to be enacted at least 6 months before the election, or any election for that matter. So in view of the 2019 general elections that were scheduled to commence from February 2019, Senator Omo Agege was speaking the truth, but he was suspended for, guess what, 90 days by the Senate. Senator Ali Ndume narrowly escaped suspension in the year 2024 for truthfully using the term kleptocrats during an interview on television to describe some of his colleagues. He had previously been suspended by the Senate in the year 2017 when he made allegations of tax evasion against former Senate President Olubukola Saraki. Joseph Waku, a senator from Benue State, was suspended in the year 2000 after making a controversial statement suggesting that a military coup would be preferable to allowing former President Olusegun Obasanjo to continue in office. His comments were widely condemned, leading to his suspension. It was later revealed by concrete evidence that he said the president had dictatorial tendencies, such as trying to persuade the National Assembly to alter the Nigerian constitution to enable him serve a 3rd term of 4 years. I still have my guest in the house, Osigwe Ahmed Momo, a legal practitioner, with me as we carefully but critically examine a tale of 2 sexual harassment cases as evidence of unequal treatment before the law. Of course, we're looking at the scenario of First Lady Oluremi Tinubu versus Senator Natasha. And Ahmed, again, thanks for the time so far on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, now let's get back to the conversation proper. Ahmed, I want to ask, what exactly did Senator Natasha do wrong? Because now the Senate has created this impression that, well, some would say it's not an impression, that you know, she flouted the rules of the Senate. So even the Senate President, in his own summation of the incidents, has dismissed the sexual harassment allegation,
yes,
but said it is more about how she conducted herself in the Red Chamber. So I want to know, from your standpoint as a legal practitioner who understands the dynamics of the law and the rules that govern those who are in the legislative arm of government, what did Senator Natasha do wrong?
Well, I think that the accusation of, okay, let me first of all start by saying that many Nigerians assume that she's being punished for suggesting that she's being sexually harassed
By the Senate President.
Alleging or suggesting that she's being sexually harassed by the Senate President. Well, maybe that's the voice of Esau and the hands of Jacob, converse that. But we don't know that. But what we know for a fact is that there was a sitting arrangement that didn't all go well with her.
Yeah.
And she had protested in a way and manner that was, the House thought was, reprehensible.
But surprisingly, the now Senate president sort of has set a precedent because while he was a active senator on the floor under the Bukola Saraki-led Senate, he acted probably in what some Nigerians might say even in a more unruly manner.
Well, so the thing is this, the fact that somebody did wrong is not going to make it right. Do you understand? We're not going to resort to the actions of individuals to make laws. We're going to look at the rules to make laws. So back, it may not have been punished at that time, but the reality is that whatever happened, that they didn't all go well with her, and she voiced that this is actually different. You guys are seeing this as me sitting, me, I'm seeing this as being victimized. And so she proceeded like she actually should to make weighty allegations, and some of those allegations were dismissed. However, she was told to come for the committee on disciplinary, and she refused. And so the private thought that was an affront and said, for refusing to honor.
But she gave a condition that she would come to the committee if the proceedings were made public.
Well, yes.
Why? Because it would be easy to interpret that she feared that if the proceedings were not made public, she wouldn't get fair hearing.
Well, it's true, but then again, you're not going to write the rules for her, right? If they have it like this, most disciplinary committees should never be public. To be honest, if we're being fair, you can't make it public. You're going to ask questions. It is also a fact finding. There are issues, there are statements that may go out there that may be disparaging and all. So they have to do their, findings before they come to the public and say, this is what I found out. This is my opinion. This is, they are left to form opinion from hearing both sides, to be honest. We don't want to sensationalize it. This is not, it's an unnecessary distraction for us Nigerians. We should be bothered about the reality of bread and butter in Nigerians' tables and the life of living, the cost of fuel, fraud of tickets. There are several issues that should be disturbing us. Now we're spending good hours of our week distracted from the substantive action. I'm sure Asorok is not bothered about this crisis because they are, Nigerians are not looking that way now. We're just enjoying this soap opera, as it will, from the Senate. But there being that matter, looking at it again critically, I think that was something that gave rise to all of this. And could she have handled it better? Probably. I personally feel that she needed not to wait for the sitting arrangement saga before she had brought out that very weighty allegation. The moment it happened and you have your facts and evidence, or you could at least gather them, you needed, as a representative of women around the country, that had to be your focus. Now it seemed to be the subsidiary issue, and the main issue is sitting arrangement. So sitting arrangement gave birth to the claim of sexual harassment. And I think it should be the other way around. Sexual harassment has to be this issue. So let's divorce it.
She's relatively a fresher, if I may use that word, in the Harlow chambers. Who could she have approached to guide her in this kind of situation?
No, like I said, these people she's a lawyer. You don't easily intimidate a lawyer. Lawyers are not really timid people, so to speak. And you can find your way around it. The moment it happens, you know how to gather evidence. Whether you're in practice or not, you're a trained lawyer. There are some things that come with the training.
There are some principles that come with the training.
And you understand the rule of evidence, basically. So evidence gathering has to be one. And I think that ought to have been a main issue because many women are suffering this. And you have to really somehow distinguish or differentiate this from that of the Senator Remi Tinubu. And I'm not holding water for her. She's accusing somebody for assault, verbal assault, or whatever it was. It's different from harassment. They're not actually on the same pedestal.
This is what I wanted to establish because in some quarters the conversation has been, there's been unfair treatment.
No, it's not the same thing. Actually, assault, a madman can assault a person. A gatesman can assault. Assault is just what a criminal would do and just, go. But harassment has to do with some level of master-servant relationship, some level of superiority. But in the Senate, everybody is equal. We are all senators. You are not the president of the Senate in the sense that you are his leader. The Senate president is a class rep. He's not a lecturer. He's a course rep. He's not a lecturer. There's some powers of the course rep. You can speak to your colleague, give me this, is the one to give you assignment or, relay whatever has come, but it's not to think that he's not in this class. You're in this class, sir. This is your class. You are not a dickhead. So this is not
So
necessarily.
even the talk about being older senators, having been in the Senate longer,
You just
does
have
not change the fact that
more experience. Now, the level of assault, there's some level. So that is why it's something that must really be thoroughly investigated. Because you are stretching the power, you know. And personally, this is another angle. I think it is impossible for the Senate to suspend a senator from our constitution. There's no way in our constitution that that's suggested. We know how you can be recalled. You know how you can be elected. The constitution was silent on the suspension. You can't, because the power of the senator doesn't come from the Senate. It comes from the electorate back home.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're punishing the entire people of Kogi Central now because of your like or dislike of a certain person. That's absurd. That power is she can't even just give it up. It's with you. There's a way you can be recalled.
So the move by the people of North Central, which naturally Kogi falls on that, to say, one, they reject the suspension and asking for the resignation of the Senate President. Is that right, considering the fact that they are the ones who elected Senator Natasha into the Senate?
Absolutely. Now, asking for the resignation is another thing. We leave that to the Senate. I don't want to delve into that politics. But saying that the suspension, in line with our constitution, doesn't work. I think they can be punished. Senators can be disciplined. You can remove them from all the committees, all the oversight functions, but to prevent them their right of legislative and egress, their right to vote. I dare say, if you want to stretch Section 61 of the Constitution, I dare say any action taken in the absence of Senator Natasha now is null and void because she has been prevented. In light of Section 61, that's my position. You can't suspend a senator from a constitutionally given authority. She has to vote when she needs to vote. The people, you have indirectly suspended the people of Kogi Central from representation. And you don't have that power to do so. All you can do is to give her, remove her from every, house, every oversight function, every committee, probably, any allowance, quote unquote, you can't necessarily say, I don't want you here again. There's another issue we'll look at. And, vis-a-vis with Senator Tinubu, I don't think the House actually looked into the matter thoroughly. It was a case of two senators having issues and all that. I think that was with Senator Dino Melaye and all that. I don't know that it was punished, even though he was a very weighty politician at that time. Maybe his punishment was his electoral fortunes afterwards. I think they have taken some kind of nosedive, so to speak. But if we look at it this angle, I don't think a Senate president really has the wherewithal. This is my opinion. The wherewithal to harass
a fellow
senator. I find it very hard. It's similar to a class rep. Do you understand?
I've taken that one. Senate President, similar to a class rep. Well, to wrap up today's edition of Rapid TV's continuously evolving social, political, and general interest show, Korero, of course, we are way out of time. It's important to note that suspension is a tool in the Senate, a tool in the House of Representatives, and even in state parliaments. Aside the suspension for 6 months, the Senate had taken other punitive or disciplinary measures against Senator Natasha. Now, of course, she has been accused of breaking the rules. But what is most important, and I like to point this out, is that right now, this matter has moved, even though, yes, there is a subsisting judgment. And of course, the court sat yesterday. But this matter has moved to the court of public opinion. And it's still sitting. Unfortunately, the court of public opinion is somehow with no presiding judge, no magistrate, no defense counsel, no prosecutor. Witnesses are not called, no court clerk, no bailiff, no hearing notice. In the court of public opinion, where it's always difficult to have a clear-cut winner or loser, that's where Akpabio and Natasha have found themselves for weeks now. And so far, they have both won and lost. And so, as Nigerians continue to, discuss this matter, more issues, more angles will continue to come to the fore. Two winners, two losers in one case. So, in the case of Jonah in the Bible, they had to cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah, showing he was responsible for the storm or the tempest that was trying to sink the ship.
And they were right.
So just check your Bible. Jonah chapter 1 verse 7. A bit of preaching this morning. Well, who will cast the lot to know between Akpabio and Natasha who is saying the truth and who is telling lies? Anyway, time will tell as we continue to follow developments. That sums it up for today's edition of Rapid TV's continuously evolving social, political, and general interest show, Korero. My special thanks to Ahmed Momo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. And we will have a sequel to this conversation. In fact, today's show is a sequel to yesterday's edition, where we looked at the aspect of how Natasha's suspension, how it's playing out for women in politics, especially as we count down to 2027. So it was truly an in-depth conversation this morning. And of course, special thanks to you for, as always, for allowing us be a part of your morning and your day. Trust us, as always, to keep our promise of looking at the issues from all sides, but most importantly, keeping our ears to the ground and our searchlight beamed on developments as they evolve. I am Nkamian John, the Beloved, also known as the Controversial, signing out.
Hello, Rapid TV. My name is Oluremi.
Hello, Rapid TV. My name is William Suchemba.
My name is Choma Chukuka.
Hello, Rapid TV. My name is Stan Nze.
Hello, Rapid TV. My name is Vivian Glam Gabriel.
Hello, Rapid TV. My name is Jide Kene.
Hi, Rapid TV. My name is Steve Chooks.
Best Afrobeat song will go to The Bunch and Snoop Dogg, Oliver Twist.
Piece of my heart, Whiskey.
Right now, will probably be Grateful by Fino.
My favorite Afrobeat song is Afrobeat.
I can't. There's so much.
It has to be one of our Rasta songs.
I love a lot of them. I don't think I have a favorite Afrobeat song right now. I cannot pick.
I can't pop.
Living in Bondage.
It has to be between Blood Sisters and Lionhearts.
I don't have favorite anything. I have favorite food. I have favorite colors. I barely have favorite any other thing.
Oh my God. Living in Bondage. The first one. I'm not a child.
Right now, a ghetto love story.
Okay, my favorite Nigerian dish would be
Banga stew with rice.
Come on now. Okwa.
Pounded yam and egusi soup.
Beans and plantain.
Is oha soup. Fufu and oha soup. Thank you.
Bread and akara.
bitter leaf soup with catfish and snail and fufu. Proper Santana. Apple.
Nnekedu keke ime. Idi sure na ede mma. Idi kwoi. Ilaro ofuma tata. Iteta iligo kwenni. Iman ndi gị n'afọ. Inwe ike mee things. You understand? Okay.
Greatness is not faceless. Greatness has a face. It has many faces. It has over 200 million faces. It has your face. It has my face. Greatness is beyond what we do. It's how we do it. It is the people we do it for. It is never settling, continuously tinkering with an idea till answers to age-old questions emerge. It is our wittiness. It is our speed. It's our energy. It's our heavy punches. It is making melodies from anything. It is in the endless poetry of Nigerian life. Joyful, frustrating, sad, exciting. It's the mix of colors, imitating the breathtaking tapestry of life. It's our defiance of fear and our almost defiant, nearly arrogant presence in the galleries of the distinguished. It is these everyday people creating timeless, priceless art, carving spectacle, crafting history. It is resilience woven into the fabric that we are made of. And we were Etu, Ashoke, Akwete, Kura. Greatness, the Nigerian spirit. That thing about us that all recognize and still cannot find the right words to describe. Great is Nigerian. Greatness is when Toby Amusho does the 100 meters hurdles in 12.12 seconds and a stunned world held its breath. Greatness is the chicken scratch guitar chords that bewitched the world. A new beat, Afrobeat, from Fela and now to Burna Boy, to Wizkid and Davido. It is the earthy Afro pop of Asha. It's the compelling, beguiling Nigerian R&B of Tiwa and Tenny, and the alternative sounds of Thames, Johnny Drill and Chike. Greatness is how our phenomenal artists are selling out arenas both home and abroad with tens of thousands of people showing up to experience the pulsations of this mysteriously sweet music. Greatness is Kunle Afolayan, Jadesola Oshiberu, Kemi Adetiba, Nazo Nuzo, hitting mind-boggling box office numbers, securing global film deals, and rallying communities. Not so long ago, content was just television, and now digital content is the new oil, with our skit makers, content creators, thought leaders, growing our digital economy. Greatness is Professors Kayode Oyewumi and Musa Yakubu, being listed among Elsevier BV's most productive scientists in the world. Greatness is Ethan Nwaneri at 15, becoming the world's youngest player in the English Premier League. Greatness is Abasi Eneobong, pioneering the inclusion of the African genome in research through 54 genes.